I'm Steve from This Week with Cars, and today I'm going to install a brand new set of SU carburetors on this 1975 Triumph TR6. The original Stromberg carburetors that came on these cars are very problematic and aren't very good carbs, so it'd be really great to get a set of these on there. Let's take a look under the bonnet. As you can see, the original air cleaner is in place. The Stromberg 175 carburetors. So the first thing I need to do is get this air cleaner off so I can get access to the carburetors. Now with the air cleaners removed, I can disconnect all the fuel lines. And now the next step is to disconnect the chokes. I'm going to just disconnect the throttle down here and take everything out as one unit. This old throttle linkage is a mess, so I'm going to put this in the parts washer and get this all cleaned up. Okay, I'm going to test fit things real quick and put some new gaskets on there. Set the carburetors on there. I'm going to leave the throttle and choke linkages out for a second. But I'm going to test fit this. The rear carburetor is hitting the bracket just slightly, so I'm going to need to trim a little bit off of there. I don't know if you can see it, but right in this area right here where the paint is worn away, that's where the carburetor is hitting, so I need to grind a little bit out of that area. Okay, I've ground a bit off of that, and the linkage on the rear carburetor there doesn't hit anymore. You can see what I've done. Took a little bite out of it there with the grinder, and so everything's ready to be installed now. Okay, I've drilled a 1/4 inch hole right here. I'm gonna put a bolt through that, and then put a jam nut onto that. This will make a great perch for a return spring. These SUs need an external return spring, and so that'll be a really great mounting point for one. I'll get this tightened down so it can't move, and then we can hook the spring right along that bolt right there. Okay, I'm going to install the throttle and choke shafts now. The easiest way to do that is to just let's get them set into the rear carb first, and you can kind of lift them over to the front carb and then slip it on. Then I need to loosen these nuts and get these locks slid in to the holes on each of the carburetors. But first I'm gonna put this linkage on there as well so I can see where I need to position the center one here. in order to go onto this bolt. I just installed these very crudely for now because these all will have to be loosened up later in the tuning process anyways, but right now they're all pretty much close to where they need to be. Alright, I'm gonna bolt the carburetor back down. Here's the throttle return spring. I'm gonna try to get that installed. The throttle linkage needs to be hooked back up over here. Okay, I can hook up the choke cable. This is a split choke cable, so one cable inside splits off into these two. The shorter one isn't going to reach the rear carburetor, but it's got a linkage here, so we don't need it. Okay, so we only need to hook the choke up to this front carburetor. We'll put that in and then hold the cable to the choke linkage with a cable stop. Now I need to design a system of hoses to replace the crankcase vent, which goes to the carbon canister. So first I'm going to remove the original hoses. I'm going to start here at the valve cover. So I'll slip on the hose into the valve cover, and then the first spot it needs to go is to the crankcase vent port right here on the rear carburetor. So I'll grab a smaller hose. This here is a 5/16 inch hose, so I'll connect it here to the rear carb, and it looks like a T would work really well right about right here. Okay, then I'm going to insert my reducer T. And then this front carb also has a crankcase vent on it. Connect that up. Looks like a good spot for a T. I think it'd look pretty good about like that. Okay, that looks pretty clean. And then down here to the carbon canister. The next thing I want to install is the new fuel lines, and that will need a T to go to each carburetor as well. Looks like about right here would be a good place for a T. The next thing I want to do is build, there's vents on top of the float bowls here, one on each carburetor. Those need to be vented to the carbon canister. This is how it worked on the old carburetors. We need to make one that looks similar to this, but will work with this new setup. So I think I'll have it come back here first. I'm just going to cut this a little long. Okay, I'm going to use the old hose as a pattern for a new length of hose to start this with. Okay, so I need 1/4 inch hose going to the float bowl vents, but I need a slightly larger hose on the top of the canister, so I'm going to use a reducer there. Just going to put a small short hose on the top of the canister. Reduce that down to the 1/4 inch I need for the carburetors. I'm going to just run this up along with this other line here. Okay, then I have a little T here. Okay, the vent system is hooked up. I've got the fuel lines hooked up. Need to go grab a few clamps to put on this. Then we'll be ready to fire it up and tune it. These carburetors are new, so there's not going to be any dashpot oil in them yet. I have official SU damper oil here. So I'm gonna just put some oil down into the top of the damper. And screw it back on. Without this, the dampers are going to want to flutter like crazy, creating a really lean condition. For starting this, I'm going to turn the idle up slightly just for now. And let's see if it starts. Okay, I've moved the car back now. I have the rear end sticking outside the door so I can let the car warm up and then I can do the tuning on it. What I need to do is loosen the throttle shaft so that they can move independently and then use the sync tool to adjust the air moving through the carburetors so that it's the same on both carburetors. I have it tuned good enough now that I'm ready to put the air cleaners on and take it for a test drive. Now, I could take the original air cleaners and put them back on. These actually would go on there. Let me take this off of there so I can show you. You see the pattern on it. These actually would bolt up to these carburetors, but the fuel lines are kind of in the way with this original air cleaner. So if you install this style here instead, it leaves plenty of room to the sides of it for the air cleaners. There is a screw that comes through here, but the trick to mounting that is an extra thick gasket right there. So I'm going to get these mounted, and then next step is take it for a test drive and then make minor tweaks as needed. Here's the extra wide gasket. Okay, I just got done with the test drive and I've done some more tuning on it. I actually test drove it 2 or 3 times and I think I'm happy with the results now. Just wanted to show you what the end plumbing looks like and go over a few issues that I ran into. The first test drove I did, the car seemed to run pretty good. And right as I was going around the building, the car died and backfired, and then I couldn't get it restarted. The issue was this guy, the little rotor. That piece that holds it together actually came loose, and the rotor had fallen apart. So when you're installing new parts, it's always good to have everything else in as good a working order as possible. Okay, as for the end result of my plumbing, I have the fuel lines going into the carbs coming here through the front. I have the crankcase vents hooked up, and those go down to the carbon canister. Originally, I had the float bowl vents, which are these right here, hooked up to the carbon canister as well, where the Zenith Stromberg carbs went to, but this carbon canister is no longer functioning properly, and I was running into some issues, so that hose just goes straight down to a safe place where if any fuel were to come out, it would go to the ground in a safe spot. Those vents and overflows are only used if there's a problem with the float valve, which sticks and then would cause gas to come out of there. Obviously, you will possibly get some vapor that comes out of there, but not very much. It would have to take a long time to come out of there. One thing that should be noted when doing this conversion on a TR6 is that the original distributors got their vacuum from a place that the SU carburetors cannot provide. So you will not be able to hook up the vacuum to the carburetor to the distributor using the SU carbs. So you may want to upgrade to a different type distributor that works normally, and then you can hook it up to the vacuum port on the SU carbs. There's a couple things that you might want to think about when selecting SU carbs for this. There's a lot of different variations in tops for the float bowls, and it would be a lot nicer if in this configuration the fuel inlet came in from this side, and that would make routing things a lot better. It would also give you better access for fitting the original style air cleaner to the engine. Another thing that I would change is the throttle linkage. It's not very good on a TR6, and there are some upgrade kits available. A upgrade kit that was meant for Stromberg carburetors should work just fine with the SU carburetors as well.